Love Boise State Public Radio podcasts? They are free to enjoy, but not free to produce. If you can give, your support helps keep shows like Idaho Matters and Scandalize available to everyone. Donate now at boisestatepublicradio.org.
More Idaho Matters right now from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Gemma Gaudette. Monday marked the start of the 2025 legislative session, and the debate over school choice was a hot topic. Former Arizona Governor Doug Ducey was at the State House to talk about the school choice program that he put into effect in his state. And he was joined by Dr. Matthew Ladner. He's a senior advisor on education policy implementation at the Heritage Foundation, who said school choice might be the way to deal with spiraling student enrollment. Dr. Ladner spoke at an event put on by the Mountain States Policy Center, which just released a survey that said 66% of Idahoans would support giving parents a tax credit if they enroll their children in private school. Dr. Ladner is joining us now to tell us more about what Arizona has done. Dr. Ladner, I want to welcome you to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So Arizona has had a tax credit in some form since 1997. Can you talk about the school choice system in Arizona and how exactly it works right now?
Sure thing. It was largely a response to just breakneck K-12 enrollment growth. We've added 500,000 students since 1990 in this state, and the state was really kind of bankrupting itself trying to build, new district schools and then surround them by trailers. And eventually we created a number of different types of choice programs, one of which is the tax credit program you referenced, passed in 1997. But we also have the biggest form of school choice in Arizona is actually open enrollment between districts, where you can, cross district lines within your district or between districts. We have the largest charter school sector in the country at 22% of public school students, tax credits, and finally the ESA program, which gives participating students an account, which is 90% of the state money that would have gone to their public school. And they can use those funds for different things, including private school tuition, but also other things like hiring tutors or actually paying for community college tuition. So that's the program that kind of most robustly puts parents in charge of the education of their children.
So if I'm understanding this ESA program correctly in Arizona, is it a certain amount of money that each child in Arizona basically gets in this account and it kind of follows them? Is that how it works?
Yes, the money is equal to 90% of the funding that would have gone to the child's public school if they had enrolled. So the local funding is not in it. So on average, the kids get like about half the amount of money they would have gotten in total from all sources, local, state, and federal. These accounts are monitored by the state, but directed by families. And there are a set of uses, allowable uses, that are broader than just private school tuition, but include private school tuition. And we've got, I believe the last I heard, about 82,000 students in the program.
So during Idaho Governor Brad Little's State of the State speech yesterday, he, made it known that he seems to be open to school choice here in Idaho. With that said, though, he was very clear on the fact that he did not want any money being taken away from public education. So if there's a program, if we were to implement a program here in Idaho similar to Arizona, it seems to me that you are potentially taking money away from public schools in order to fund where this money follows the child. Is that an accurate assessment?
Well, I can tell you that, and this is something I went over in the presentation in Boise yesterday in some detail. The reality is that the school districts in Arizona have more money now than they ever have. We're literally at the highest, both on a per pupil basis and an overall basis. Their spending has gone up, and every single school district that was educating Arizona students back in 1993, which is the year before we started all of our different choice programs, are still there today. They're still educating kids. The kids are still playing football on Friday nights, right? So Arizona is a state that put more money into education and got more schools, right? Unfortunately, there's a lot of states around the country that put more money in education and wind up having fewer schools, right? So, from the standpoint of a family, what is vital is that they have options, right? The most prominent reason that families want to transfer their students is actually because of bullying, and bullying is something that is pervasive, unfortunately, in public schools. And when you're that family that has this situation, you don't your attendance boundary can become your prison very quickly if we don't provide people with options. So it is absolutely possible. I've taken a look at the Idaho Constitution. It guarantees public funding for K-12 education. That is never going away. Zip code assignment, on the other hand, sort of herding kids into schools based on where they live and not letting them go anywhere else. That's something you don't have to have. You can have a more humane and more effective system of public education if you broaden the options that are available to people and give them more control over the education of their children.
I want to push back just a little bit on this in regards to what some opponents of school choice, at least here in Idaho, say. And that is that, look, you have school choice. We have charter schools, we have public schools, we have private schools, we have home schools. There are a lot of options for families to choose. We have open enrollment in some school districts. So with that said, what is then the benefit of putting public dollars, let's say, into a family who already has kids in private school, right? And they're going to use that money anyway. We know that happened in Arizona. It's happened in every state that's implemented some type of school choice. So opponents say, we're basically giving money to families who are already spending money on sending their children to private school.
Sure. And you know what? Those families pay their taxes just like everyone else does. And, you often hear district advocates say things like, we educate every child. Well, actually, they don't educate every child. And since everyone is putting into the system, everyone should be able to benefit from K-12 funding. As for the first part of your question, what is important to families is, how much in the way of variety and meaningful variety do they have between the schools that they can choose from, right? It's fine to say, yes, we have some charter schools, and you do have some charter schools. That's great. Yes, we have some open enrollment. Well, good. You have some open enrollment. That's wonderful. Okay. If you are a family who is in need of a different school, right? Like, do you have access to an arts school? Do you have access to a school that has sort of a classical education approach? Do you have access to, there's a whole variety of school types, and different kids need different things. So it's not like you have enough choice in Idaho. I wouldn't even say we have enough choice in Arizona because, the more options you have and the more meaningful difference between the types of schools you have, the more likely it is that you as a family are going to be able to find a school that's a strong fit for your individual child.
I want to thank you so much for your time today and your perspective on this issue. It is definitely a hot topic and will continue to be a hot topic as we move through our Idaho legislative session. We've been talking with Dr. Matthew Ladner. He is a senior advisor on education policy implementation at the Heritage Foundation. He spoke yesterday to the Idaho legislature about school choice. You've been listening to Idaho Matters from Boise State Public Radio. I'm Gemma Gaudet.
If you like podcasts like this, explore more from the Boise State Public Radio podcast family. There you'll find a mix of daily news, Idaho Voices, and in-depth series on a wide range of topics. I'm talking wild horses, political scandals, sustainable ranching, and militia groups in a post-January 6th world. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search Boise State Public Radio to find what Idaho's NPR station has in store for you.